Welcome back into NESN Bets Kickoff. Travis Thomas here in the PNC studio with my main man, Sam Panayotovich, Sammy P. Giants, Bills. My goodness gracious. The line says it all in this game. Bills favored by 15 and a hook. The total, 43 and a half. I guess my only question to you, and you know what's coming, do the Giants have a chance to cover in this game at all?
Every NFL team can cover 15 and a half, 16 points. So yes, I think laying that number in a random NFL game is tough. But then when we add in the complexity of Sunday night and Buffalo off a loss, it gets more complex because I think the Bills want to come out and just slap the Giants around.
Right.
That being said, though, like when we get these massive spreads, these are overcorrections in the market. You know, a 2-touchdown loss is a pretty big loss in the NFL.
Absolutely.
So now we get that extra cushion. We get the 16. So 28-14 is a win. You know, 21-35 is a win. That's still sort of a bad loss, but it's a cover. And I think there's clearly a lot of push from the media here that are talking about the Giants. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have an O-line. They can't run the ball. And like, yeah, maybe that's true big picture. But Trav, these guys are ready to go on Sunday night. I don't think the Giants are going to flat out die on the grass. Like, This is probably their last stand. This will be their last great effort because it is a Sunday night game in Buffalo. Nobody's giving them a chance. But I'm not laying 16 points. I just can't.
Yeah, I'm not either. In fact, I'm not laying or taking the points. This is a complete stay away from me. However, as your sports betting advisor, I would agree with Sammy P and say, I believe the Giants can cover this number. Obviously, there's a little bit of revenge factor in this game, too. We need to talk about with Brian Dable. I mean, obviously, you know, he goes to the Giants, has success, takes them to the playoffs last season, hasn't looked so good this season so far, but we believe that he's a good coach, even with the Giants' struggles, and we understand the injuries there in New York as well. Look, I like Tyrod Taylor. I don't love him. I don't think he's some great quarterback, but I think he can come in and stabilize some things for the Giants, notably not turning the ball over. So I think because of that, Sammy, stylistically, schematically, I think you're going to see a lot of Saquon Barkley, who's back in the lineup tonight. We can get into player props in a minute, but I just think the very nature of what the Giants want to do offensively, maybe they will have success sustaining some drives, time of possession, keeping the Bills' explosive offense on the sideline. Hell, that may be the best defense tonight, Sammy P, is trying to sustain some drives and keep Josh Allen and the crew and Stephon Diggs over on the sidelines. That can help us get to the Giants covering the spread. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm going to pull up the Giants team total here. I was also looking at Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown. You know, he is a top 3 pick.
Yes.
And he's 2-1 to score a touchdown. We know that it's really not his fault. Right. It's the fact that the offensive line has just been hodgepodge together. But look at those numbers.
I know.
47 and a half yards. That's it.
He
can get there. He can get there on one run if he hits the hole the right way. So I think that is just total disrespect. And then the Giants, like, to get their team total tonight, it's so attainable, Trav.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big number. It's got to be here. 13 and a half. That's it. 13 and a half.
I like it.
They can get 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think so. Listen, I agree with you on Saquon. Let's get into player props then. You brought a couple of them up. Saquon Barkley, rushing yards, 47 and a half. How about this? Receiving yards, 15 and a half. I mean, I look at both of these on the over, to be honest with you, Sammy, because, listen, we named a lot of bets here. Team total, Giants covering. I mean, we haven't really talked about the total of the game in 43 and a half, but obviously if the Giants, from the Giants' perspective, if they're going to get to any of this, Saquon's going to have to be the guy, and getting him back is huge. So I would go over on rushing yards and receiving yards. And I tell you what, that anytime touchdown price at 2-1, I mean, if you're going to bet on him anyway from a player prop perspective, Why in the hell would you not get involved, especially with that price, on an anytime touchdown, Sammy P? You have to.
Well, I actually hadn't even thought about the receiving yardage prop, but when you throw that number out there at 15.5, think about the way that the Giants have been struggling to keep their quarterbacks upright.
Yep.
So let's assume that the Bills' pass rush is living in the backfield. Tyrod's going to just turn and throw the ball into the flat.
Of course.
I mean, we're talking about check down city for a quarterback that already checked down to begin with.
Right.
You know, he's not going to tear you up down the field with 40 and 50-yard missiles. He's going to try and get what the defense will give him. And I imagine the Bills are going to be aggressive and probably bring pressure.
Yep.
So that would at least tell me that, yeah, Barkley can get 15.5 receiving yards.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite bet in this game now.
Listen, here's another one. Again, and we've talked about him before, you and I, and we say, well, we're just waiting on him to get hurt, or he could have a big week, or he could only have 1 or 2 catches. But Darren Waller, 39.5 receiving yards. Now, for what you just said in terms of game script, I completely agree. Tyrod's not a great deep ball thrower. So, Saquon in the flat all night. I'm with it. But I also think there could be opportunities there for Darren Waller as well. I'll stay away from the anytime touchdown market for him because it sounds like you and I both don't believe the Giants are going to be scoring at abundance. We just think they'll score enough. So I would go over 39.5 for Darren Waller. What would you say? That's a guy you really don't like to take shots on. Would you take a shot tonight?
No.
All right, let's move on to the Bills, shall we? Josh Allen, listen to these numbers. Inflated like a hot air balloon. 264.5 through the air, 1.5 touchdowns, 26.5 rushing yards. I got to tell you, for a guy like Josh Allen, I would probably go over on the rush yards tonight and maybe stay away from everything else, although I could see him going over because he's Josh Allen.
It's juiced, but I like the over 1.5 touchdown passes.
Okay.
I mean, this really could be a game where he throws 3 or 4.
Yeah.
If there's one team you can throw a lot of touchdowns against, it's the New York Giants. So I would probably go over 1.5. And look, we've seen that Allen number over the years be in the high 30s, like 37.5, 38.5. So to only see it at 26.5, it's sort of concerning. It feels like free cheese, and nothing's really ever free in this racket. So yeah. I'm going to stay away from the rushing yardage prop, but he only needs 2 through the air to get me home. Talk me out of that.
Well, I can't, but I will say this. I mean, if you like that prop, you have to like the weapons, right? Stephon Diggs, 84.5 receiving yards. How about Gabe Davis, 41.5 receiving yards? I mean, I'm going to tell you something. I said I'll stay away from Josh Allen's props except the rushing prop, but I would swim in the waters of his weapons of both Diggs and Davis tonight. I mean, I could see a world, and it sounds like maybe you agree, where both of these guys go over 100 tonight.
Well, let's pat ourselves on the back for our favorite props in the show earlier today.
Yep.
I had Jimmy G throwing a pick.
Yep.
You had Mac throwing a pick. Those were hello in the first half of that game.
Yep.
So let me hit you with one right here. Dalton Kincaid is the Bills tight end, the rookie out of Utah. He's the next guy. He's the next big tight end. You know, Laporta and Kincaid are going to be the next guys, like the next Kelce's and Mark Andrews. This kid to score a touchdown is plus 270 at one sports book. And I'm telling you, he's going to get really, really isolated looks inside that red zone, because for all the weapons the Bills have, he's not like 1, 2, or 3 in terms of defensive options. Like, the defense is going to stick Diggs. They're going to stick Davis. Dawson Knox gets out there. But I think Kincaid's going to be a red zone weapon tonight, and he's going to have at least one target inside the 10-yard line. And I'm going to bet Dalton Kincaid to score a touchdown at plus 260.
I like it, my friend. I feel like we've covered this game. I want to ask you this, sort of a strategy question. Some people are going to look at this game, right? And they're going to say, I don't want to lay all these points with the Bills, but I don't trust the Giants far enough to throw them to cover. Just strategically, Sammy P., help some people out here. If you're looking at a game, you don't like the side, maybe even the total, do you look to player props? Will you just pass on a game? Maybe take us through your mentality when you look at a game and you don't like a side per se.
Well, I think when you look at, a 16-point favorite, clearly Vegas thinks they're going to score around 30 points.
Right.
With a total of 43, 44, and a team laying 16. I mean, it's essentially like 28. So they're going to score touchdowns. So basically what I do, and I just got to Kincaid, is that you look at, the non-expensive guys. Like Stephon Diggs to score a touchdown, there's no real value there.
Right.
Is it going to happen? Yeah, probably. I mean, chances are good he's going to score a touchdown in like 60% of the games. But I like the second and third options inside the red zone for a big favorite. You notice I didn't really gush over any Giants props, aside from the Barkley one where he's going to probably catch more than 15 and a half worth of footballs.
Yep.
But I do think those second and third options for a big favorite, whether it's receiving yards or touchdowns, good markets, because the books are telling us without telling us, hey, this favorite is probably going to roll and you're probably going to get multiple touchdowns. So look down the board for those second and third guys on the big favorites.
This is why you got to roll with us here on NESN Bets Kickoff. We're entertaining and you can learn something. For Travis Thomas and Sam Panayotovich, we'll see you next week. Enjoy Sunday Night Football.